Hey guys, welcome back. Today I want to talk about Joyce Carol Oates Masterclass. This was another one I loved. I cannot get enough of these. I am officially hooked. And while your process cannot get much different, although I'll tell you, my process, you want to know whose process and mine don't mix, is, let's see, I wrote it down. Oh, James Patterson. Totally different style writers, but that's cool. I'm going to do a review on him too. In the meantime, let's talk Joyce Carol Oates. Her segment on Masterclass is about process and about short story writings. How to write a short story. And there was some of her stuff I got, for someone who writes so differently than me and believes such different things about like shoulds and shouldn'ts, I got so much out of this class, and I think that's what I liked about it the most. She had me at Alice. She started, I mean, obviously, Alice in Wonderland and me, besties, for real. Like, as a kid, I loved Alice in Wonderland, but it never went away. I never grew up. I'm still in some rabbit hole. I don't know. Either way, she starts her class talking about Alice in Wonderland and comparing authors to Alice in Wonderland, and how we're all kind of going down into this rabbit hole, and that we need to be fearless, that we need to take a leap. We don't know what's in that rabbit hole. We don't know what kind of obstacles we're going to find, if we're going to make it out alive, if we're going to go completely insane, or what's going to go down. What's cool about this class, though, is that she actually takes us in a rabbit hole without probably even being conscious of it. I think it's who she is. And again, I will say this till I'm purple in the face. I think that's the number one thing I'm discovering about these classes. These authors write the same way they present. And that is so cool. That tells me that's their authentic voice in their books and that they are being true to who they are. One of them, it may have been Joyce Carol Oates, was telling a story about Virginia Woolf and how she wrote back in, God knows when. And her prose is so eloquent and so just, I mean, you might want to call it flowery, but it's just pretty prose, right? But then when you read her journals, she's a snarky bee. Like, she is absolutely like snarking on, Margaret and Millie and Milfred and whoever came over to her house that day, like more contemporary style. And that's sad. That's sad that Virginia Woolf had to write in a different way because she was a woman living in a different time. And it makes me feel so fortunate as a woman to be able to write however the hell I want. Anyway, I want to say it was Joyce Carol Oates, but these master classes are starting to bleed together for me that talked about that with Virginia Woolf. And I saw that with her as well, with this author. One thing that was cool, I think, that I took out of this class, and it's something that I'm going to practice with over the next few weeks, is she talked about the actual form of writing. When you write a short story, I don't know if you guys have ever seen those poems that are like in the shape of whatever the poem's about, like a poem about a tree is in the shape of a tree. That's kind of what she talked about. She did a short story, and she shows it in the class, called The Maze, but it's actually written in the shape of a maze. It is the coolest thing ever. Like, you would have to spin the paper. She said it was published in a magazine. I've done that kind of wordplay before, and that kind of reminds me of my wordplay journals. To me, that is like the neatest thing, and it makes me want to reconnect with the written word. It brings that fire back in me for why I love language and why I love expression. And Joyce Carol Oates plays with words, and that is something I love about her. I love that she's playful. I love her Alice analogy, and I think it's totally true. Another thing we have in common, rocket fire first drafts. I'm with her, and I think all of these authors so far have talked about get that first draft down. Don't think, don't critic, get the critic out of here. Nope, write it. Get it down, because once you have that draft, you have that foundation. You have something you can count on to start with. And even if you end up scratching half the damn thing, you at least have that base. So she did talk a lot about that. She does say revise relentlessly. She said she is absolutely brutal with revisions. And I believe that because I've read her work and I believe it. I absolutely believe that. Another thing she talked a lot about was interruptions. She said the biggest enemy you have is your spouse or your kids or your pet. Being interrupted interrupts the flow of creativity. And I mean, I think we all know that, but I think we have trouble saying that as dramatically as it really is. I know that for me, when I get interrupted, I'm just like, please just go away. And it's not even fair to the people in your life, right? Like, I mean, they have a right to live in the same house or ask you a question without interrupting the artist. But that's how it feels. So she talked about how important it is to have a specific place where you do your writing, a specific time of day where you know you're going to not have those interruptions, because they are hard. She talked about that struggle a lot, which I think we can all relate to. She also talked about journaling. She's been keeping a journal forever. And yeah, it was her that talked about Virginia Woolf, so that's cool. I'm actually on the right page here. And said that journaling can be really cool because even if you're just writing down like snippets of conversation you've had throughout the day, when you go back to that 10 years later, it's like going through that rabbit hole again, into that tunnel and like reconnecting with a different person almost, a different time. And I know that's true for myself. I will go back and read journals that I wrote 12 years ago and just go, what? Laugh at myself. I mean, I'm pretty whiny in my journal writing, and I'm not whiny as a person. So it's kind of funny to me that, wow, I whine in my journals. That must be how I manage myself. I don't know. I just think it's cool, and she talks about that too, how cool that is. She said to write at odd hours. Write when you're exhausted, when you cannot write another word, write. She said because when you're almost like drunk, she said even when you are drunk, write. Now, I don't agree with this. To me, I have tried that, and writing drunk is like, I'm wasting my time. I'm better off passing out and starting over in the morning. I'm not a big drinker anyways, but when I do drink, I have learned, don't even try it. She insists you should try it. That it's those stupid things that will come out in those moments that are like little gems that you can take into your sober writing later. I don't know. Disagree, but hey, to each his own. I think whatever works. She said a big thing, important thing to do is revisit your childhood memories, that you can take a lot of texture from things you remember as a kid. And she talked about the way that people remember things, how that they remember things in snippets. It's not always chronological. And so when you go to tell a short story, you don't always have to be chronological. You can start with a memory and then go back. And that's something that James Patterson talks about as well, that it's okay to play with time in your writing. And I think that's something I don't give myself permission to do a lot. Going back to my notes, she calls it typographical, there we go, experimentation. And that's writing, playing with form. That's stuff I was talking about with the maze short story. And it's something, you know, she challenged people to do. Write a poem about a tree that's shaped like a tree. And I love those kind of exercises because I think they make us really think more about the words. Instead of trying to get out this huge, big picture novel, when you focus on a shorter piece or even a poem, you have to really choose your words more carefully because you don't have, frankly, the space. It's kind of like when I was in training in school to be a journalist. They cut like every other word because newsprint was money. So back before the internet, when people mostly got their news from actual newsprint in newspapers, journalists were taught you have got to save every word, make every word count. You've got 300 words to tell that story. It better get it all in there with, you know, all the relevant facts. It better be factual, but more so, it can't be this fluffy stuff. And I think short story writers master that. And I think that there's a special, unique talent in an author that can tell a good story in a short amount of space. Now, she does describe short story writing as inclusive of novellas, which I found interesting. But overall, my impressions of her, while she didn't come off as well-read as, say, Margaret Atwood, she came off as so experienced. She talks a lot about her students, very passionate about writing. Absolutely love this class, highly recommend it. While her process is different than mine, she seems to be more into planning it out and I don't know, maybe a little more introspective than I tend to be. I thought that some of the things she had to say, one, they gave me new ideas of ways I could play with words. They gave me permission to play. I see her as another Alice, you know, a kindred spirit in this big rabbit hole that we call Authorville. I don't know, just loved it, absolutely loved it, highly recommend it. Honestly, guys, I can't say, oh, I'd pick Joyce Carol Oates' class over James Patterson's class over Dan Brown's class. I think you need to get the whole thing, the whole unlimited classes, because I'm not gonna, or find somebody who isn't so darn enthralled with these master classes, because I don't know what to say. I just love them. Fascinated, completely enthralled by these. And I'm so grateful for these. I'm so glad I came across this. Thank you, Google stalker, whoever the heck is watching my house and knows what Aaron would be interested in, because maybe it's AdSense. I don't know. I don't understand how these things work. All I know is this. If you're even remotely interested, don't hesitate. You will thank yourself later. Look at it as an investment into your writing, even if the only thing it does for you is relight that spark. Another great class. Yeah. I don't know who I'm off to next. There are a couple pretty interesting classes that I'm looking at. I may switch off of writing for a couple of days just because I kind of don't want to get through them all too fast. But you know, hey, you never know, I might be back with a Aaron Learns Tennis video, because I am crazy enough to try it all. Tomorrow, speaking of which, I'm going to throw my roller skates back on and get back out there and try to figure out what I'm doing so I can get back into this roller derby thing next season that got completely kiboshed because of Corona. So pray for me. I may be back with Cass. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great day, night, wherever you are in the world. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit like, subscribe, all those things. If you have friends wondering if they should take it, feel free to share with your friends. I appreciate you being here. I would love to hear from anybody who's taken any of these classes, your thoughts, which class you like the most, which class you plan to take. I challenge you to take some class that's like way outside of our bookish world. Maybe that's what I'll do tomorrow. I'm gonna find something like how to make sushi. That'll be a disaster. Yeah, I was gonna say drumming, but I already wrote that book and I am all drummed out. I don't know. Just have fun with it, guys. Have a great time. And the rest of this quarantine, we're almost free to move about the country, world, whatever. I will talk to you soon. Until next time, peace, love, books and crazy.
All kinds of art. But I think a born writer wants to tell a story. And that instinct to tell stories is very natural. All you need to do, really, is to take that instinct and transform it into a craft. So if anyone who's listening to me feels that he or she is a writer, you probably are. This little uplift that we get psychologically from finishing something. There are two ways of looking at writing. One way is that you're telling a story very transparently. The other is that you're telling a story with language, and language is the point. How fast do you want your story to read? If it reads too fast, then it might be superficial. If a person reads it in 5 minutes, it's all over. So we're also going to be exploring a writing workshop. Writers are like cooks. They keep everything in the refrigerator and put it all in the casserole. Like, what doesn't go in for dinner tonight? Well, it's going to show up next Sunday.